hello again, and thank you so much for joining us another Thursday evening for Couples Date Night. It's been a few weeks since we came your way with a new episode, and today we have just that. We hope that the past several weeks have been a wonderful time. We really appreciate all those who come back to listen to our podcast on enjoylifewithyourspouse.com. We do see a lot of activities there, and we're really grateful for your participation. And those of you who are not aware of this resource, it's where we archive all the shows on our radio station on Sunlight Radio. And we welcome you to stop by anytime to enjoy some of the resources we have there. My name is Akwesi Opong, and we are coming to you again today with another lesson on marriage. And today is for people who are preparing to get married. We haven't left you out. So, as I always say, call a few friends, invite a few people you know to come and enjoy and learn something very valuable today. We'll be right back. Thank you so much again for joining us today. Again, my name is Akwesi Opong. This is Sunlight Radio Online, and as I said earlier, we are archiving all these lessons on our website, which is enjoylifewithyourspouse.org. Today, we're going to touch on something very interesting, and we are going to talk today to people who are preparing to get married. I know with springtime in North America, a lot of people who've not been able to have their wedding done over the last several years are preparing to do so. And we thought it was a great time to have something for you to think about as you prepare to take this very important step in your life and in your relationship. So we have some resource we are going to share with you. But one other resource I want to touch on before I move along, it's one from Focus on the Family. Focus on the Family is a Christian organization. It's actually in Colorado. And on their website, they have several resources for family and marriage. And they do have an online assessment for married couples. So if you go to their website, or you can search in Google, Focus on the Family Assessment. And it's a free assessment you can take. I strongly recommend it because my wife and I took it ourselves, and we really, really like the how it helped us to really understand each other. So I'll really strongly recommend it if you're planning on getting married, or even if you're married already. It's still a very, very valuable resource that can be of great help to you. So seriously consider that as a way of setting the course for your for the life ahead of you. Yes. So reach out. Go on focusonthefamily.com or .org online, and then look for the resource or the assessment that will help you to really prepare for this very important time in your relationship. Now, the topic we're going to talk about today, one of the resources that comes to me is the story in the Bible that talks about the house that was built upon a rock and the house that was built upon the sand. in that biblical reference, it tells us that building the house on the rock was the smart idea, because it was able to withstand all kinds of challenges that came, and it stood still. You know, this reference is in Matthew chapter 7 from 24 to 26. And I think I'm going to read that as a basis for this. So it says, Matthew 7:24, it says, "Everyone who hears these words of mine and does them will be like a wise man who builds his house on a rock. And the rain fell, the floods came, and the winds blew and beat on the house, but did not fall, because it had been founded on the rock. And anyone who hears these words of mine and does not do them will be like a foolish man who builds his house on the sand. The rain fell, the floods came, the winds blew and beat against the house, and it fell, and great was the fall of it." So, the message here is not my voice. Of course, it was the word of God, God's voice, that was being referred to here. But what I'm interested in with this reference of scripture is the foundation that you're building. Where are you building it? And as today, as I said earlier, we're speaking to people who are planning or preparing to get married, and you have to make sure that your relationship it's founded on something. And of course, the ultimate is making sure that you have a relationship with God through Jesus Christ, and also building your relationship on something that is much more than love. Because as we know, love alone doesn't do it. We need wisdom, we need understanding, we need knowledge. And today I'm going to share some knowledge with you, and that's what I want you to focus on. So, the reference or the resource I'm going to use today, it's from Women's Health Magazine. They had a great article on certain things, preparations to do, and this one was particularly on questions to ask when you were preparing to get married. And they cover some specific categories that I want us to look at today. So the first category I would like to talk about is, I guess it's going to be more of questions to ask your spouse when you're preparing to get married. What kind of questions do you ask? And I know for most of us, as we prepare to get married and we go through courtship or dating or however you call it, certain questions do come up as we get to know the special someone. Certain things come up, or where you will ask certain specific questions, or situations might bring up certain questions as you go through this process. So, and if you haven't touched on any of these, it's important that you listen closely, and also let this be a kind of a roadmap for you to know some of the things that questions that you can ask. So, with no order of importance, the first category are personal questions. I'll say personal questions in terms of things that your spouse likes or dislikes, and some are just very everyday questions. These are very low level questions that doesn't dig deep into the personality of your spouse, but just helps you to get to know the person. So, some of the questions you can ask is, what do you think about social media? It's a very low level question, and I'm sure somewhere in your discussions these things will come up. What do you think about social media? Do you like being on it or not? What kind of music do you like to listen to? It's very important, because music comes in every shape or form. And knowing these things about your spouse help to set the mood. And you might be surprised that both of you have some kind of genre of music you both like. So this is kind of tied into the social media question. I guess social media, because now that's the mode of communication. That's how people connect with other people. And I won't even be surprised if the two of you met on social media. So that again will set up some kind of premise for more discussion. One other question is, um, do you like a pet? You know, a pet. And if you like a pet, is it a cat or a dog? Hopefully, it's not some kind of exotic animals I don't want to talk about having as a pet. But anyway, let's stay with cats and dogs. So, knowing these things are important because you want to find out if your spouse is comfortable with it, if there are any health concerns in having a pet, if also both of you are willing to bear the cost in having a pet. Because, as some of you know, having a pet it does cost money and time and commitment. So you have to make sure both of you are willing and ready to make that commitment. So these are very good questions to ask, trying to find out if you like to have a pet, you know. So as we move along, what kind of TV shows does your partner like or like to watch? You know, now TV it's very fluid, as some don't even have a antenna TV or what do you call it, a cable TV anymore, because a lot of people watch their shows through applications like Netflix and YouTube and Amazon Prime and things like that. So it's interesting to know because I know my wife is a Bridgerton fan, and she likes watching that very very religiously, and knows the characters very well, and it piques your curiosity to know what kind of shows that does my partner like to watch on TV, or maybe on online, or wherever you get your entertainment. Yeah. So, what kind of food does your partner like? I think this is one of those questions that will definitely come up if you haven't asked. You know, maybe the question will be the kinds of food that you like. I think it will become very quickly evident the kind of foods that you like or your spouse like, and I think that will always be an opportunity to try the kinds of food each one likes, and be able to share some ideas and have something to talk about as a result of that. One other big topic is hobbies. What hobbies do you have? And this is very important because I often tell couples that knowing your spouse hobbies are good prior to getting married. If you are whilst dating, it's important to engage in each other's hobbies. I like bike riding. I just like to be outside riding my bike, you know, especially in the spring and summer weather when you are out there, because I've actually tried riding my bike along routes that I typically drive, and I was quite amazed at things I couldn't pay attention to whilst driving. So, you know, I like riding bike in the woods and that kind of thing. And I've invited my wife to join me a couple of times, and she really enjoyed it as well. And so, know what you like to do as a hobby. You know, you like to read, or you like to play board games, or anything of that nature. But the key thing here is, after you've gotten married, make sure you don't stop those hobbies. You know, even if it's something that you go to do on your own, you know, maybe with a bunch of friends, maybe you like to play basketball, and maybe every other week you like to meet up with your friends and play basketball. Make sure you don't stop that after you get married. Of course, make sure that you connect with some great friends who have great values to play basketball with, and make sure that it's adding value to you and your spouse. So, and I'm not saying basketball is only played by guys here. Ladies also play very good basketball. So let's note that. And some guys also could be involved in cooking. Cooking could be their thing. So let's ensure that all these things that we do as hobbies translate into our relationships as well. And they won't fall by the side of the road once we get married. But those are very good questions to ask, you know. One good question also is getting to know your spouse's friends. What kind of friends do they have? And one of the things that I've learned over the years is that your friends will evolve. If you have friends who are single, once you get married, you start seeing a shift. It's not on purpose, but the shift begins to happen where you start making friends who are also couples, and you realize that your single friends might they won't go away, but they'll kind of fade into the background a little bit. You get in touch with them every so often. So that's a very, very important, some of the things to talk about prior to getting married. And I also want to add that it's important to talk about your style. How do you like to dress? Or what are your tastes? What is your style? Maybe for the lady, what the style you like your hair, or the kind of clothes you like. And I think it becomes very important if you want to buy something for your spouse and you know the style she likes, so that you can tailor your choices along the lines of her style. My name is Akwesi Opong. This is Sunlight Radio Online, and today we are talking about two people who are preparing to get married, and we're looking at some questions that are important to ask to prepare both of you for a lifetime of love together. We'll be right back. Hello again, and thank you so much for joining us another Thursday evening. Today we are talking about how to prepare and questions to ask when you are preparing to get married. And we've gone over some really good key points in addressing some of the very low-hanging questions that you might ask or they might come up. But however you get to those questions, they are very important in preparing both of you as you get to know each other and as you embark on your relationship together. And I want to point out that I'm not making these questions as the only form of preparation you need for your marriage. It's important that you get some kind of professional help for preparing for marriage, and that could be in the form of marriage mentoring, or it could be in the form of marriage counseling. If you belong to a local church, most churches have marriage counseling programs that can help you prepare for your relationship. But if you don't, you can always go online to Symbis. Symbis is an organization started by Les and Leslie Parrott, and it's SYMBIS. It's Save Your Marriage Before It Starts. And they have great resources. You can sign up for a Symbis coordinator in your town or city, and usually churches run these programs, and it's really, really a great tool that will really help both of you take these online assessments to help you prepare for your relationship. So we are going to dive in more deeper into talking about some of the questions to ask. Now, we're going to look at personal values. Values are very important when getting into any relationship. Your values tell who you are, how you react to issues, decisions, how you make decisions, and who you consider as the authority in your life. Tony Robbins said something that a man or a woman under no authority is a threat to him or herself. So we should all fall under certain authority that gives us where our values derive. So it's very important that we have good values, and we know the values our spouses have. as we prepare to get married. So, some of the questions you can ask is, what is the religion of your spouse? This will open up to various views depending on, who is listening to this. But the point I want to make here is that knowing the kind of religion your spouse has is very, very important. And even the details of it, we've seen couples who both considered Christian, but one might be from a different denomination than the other, and you tend to see that there might be some conflicts as to how to approach some religious sacraments. Some practices could bring conflict, and it's important to address those things and know where everyone stands. I'm not saying that being from a different denomination as a Christian can disqualify you for marriage, no. But talking about these things, this is where wisdom comes in. We have to apply wisdom in understanding, beliefs and where our religion comes in. But the key thing here that I want to point out is that having a relationship with God, it's one of the key yardsticks in helping couples. There's a body of research that shows that people who have a personal relationship with God do very well in their relationships. And part of the reason is that they know they answer to a higher being and they are accountable to God. So as a result, they apply those virtues in their relationship as well. I've said time and over that if we even stick by the fruits of the Spirit, the Bible talks about, self-control, joy, peace, righteousness. If we keep, even if we live by those, it's enough to make our marriage thrive and really help us to enjoy our relationships. So knowing the religious persuasions of your spouse is very, very important. Moving on, does your partner expect you to participate in their religion? That's very important, because if you marry outside your religion, then there's a chance that could be a question that you have to address prior to going into your relationship. Now, shifting gears a little bit, politics. What political affiliation do you have? I think these days they are important. So that is a question that has to be addressed. So, and having a political affiliation doesn't disqualify both of you from getting married. I think there used to be a CNN contributor who was of one political party and his wife was from the other party, and they did very well from what I could see on TV. They were cordial, they were in love, and I don't know what happened when they got home, but they came back every morning, so I guess they're doing great anyway. So the point here is talk about these issues. Yeah, ideology is another thing. The ideology could cover anything. It could be your worldview on certain specific topics, or your personal worldview on life. I think all these things are very key issues that, if addressed earlier, will really help us to avoid certain surprises that might come down the road. So let's move on to career. What kind of work does your spouse enjoy doing? I think usually when couples meet, one of the first questions they tend to find out is, what do you do? What do you do for work? So that, we assume, has already been established, that you know that maybe your spouse is a school teacher, or your wife is a dentist, or whichever career. But the real question here is, what kind of career brings you joy? It's quite interesting how we all find ourselves in a career that we do, but there are other things in life that we absolutely enjoy. And for my wife and I, in case, we all are professionals. We have day jobs we go do every day, and we have a family too. But we really enjoy talking to young couples about marriage and their journey preparing for relationships. It's something that we enjoy doing. So that's one thing we invest a little bit of our time every week or every month, doing, helping people in our community and in our church. So what are the other things you like doing? I heard on a podcast. No, it was actually a webinar I was on, and there was this young man who has a hobby planting peppers. So he said that's one thing he would love to do, and he has like over 100 variety of peppers, from chilies to habarin, chipotles, to any kind of peppers out there. So there are passions we have and things that we enjoy doing, and that might be a little bit different from what your career is. I think that's one great thing that couples can talk about. And all these things, the goal of all these things is to help you to get to know your spouse better. Yes, it's to help you to know each other better. And once you start discussing these things, it will open up other things for you to talk about. Yeah. Now, moving down, is your partner interested in volunteering, doing any kind of community service? I've had the opportunity to talk to some young people who are looking for, they're done with their education, formal education, and looking for a career. And I tell them, volunteer in your community. It's a great way of connecting with people and showing your skills and giving back to the community. I've always volunteered myself. As I sit here, I'm on the board for an organization called SCORE that provides mentoring for entrepreneurs, so people who are getting into business. I spend a few hours every week volunteering for them as well. So this should be always a way that we give back. We don't always have to keep taking. The society gives us a lot, and people, we're standing on people's shoulders to be where we are. So no matter what you're doing, maybe you do very well in your career, and you know a few things that other people don't know. If you're a teacher, you could volunteer some time to help some kids, underprivileged children, with their homework. These are all things that really adds value to our lives and our relationships. So find out all these things as you prepare to get married, and know the persuasions and all the things that really are important, the values that your spouse brings to the table. And I think in all of this, the key thing is trying to find out what your spouse deeply cares about. Does your spouse just cares about themselves? Is the person very self-absorbing, or he or she cares about another person? And that all these are indications of what we're potentially getting ourselves into. So let's do our very best to ask questions that will help us get to know our spouse better. And let's not just be caught up in love and the excitement of the occasion, but let's really take our time to dig deep to ensure that we are really connecting on a deeper level in understanding who we are getting into this relationship with, and also helping us to really educate ourselves as to how our relationship is going to go. My name is Akwesi Opong. This is Sunlight Radio Online, and today we are talking about some questions to ask when you are preparing for marriage. We'll be right back.